The Challenger, the vast expanse of the Vexitari arena stretched before Commander Marcus Reeves, its obsidian walls rising like dark sentinels against the alien sky. Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy filled the massive circular stadium, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of the cosmos. Some resembled insects with gleaming carapaces. Others were nearly humanoid save for extra limbs or unusual coloration, while many defied any earthly comparison. Yet all shared the same hungry anticipation, the chance to witness a human die spectacularly. Marcus stood alone at the center of the arena floor, his military-issued jumpsuit the only protection afforded him. No weapons, no armor, no assistance. Just a man facing whatever horrors the Vexitari Council deemed worthy opponents. The fine red sand beneath his feet still bore dark stains from previous combatants who had failed their trials. He took a deep breath, scanning the private boxes high above where the Vexitari Council members observed with their characteristic detachment. These were the self-appointed arbiters of galactic civilization, the ones who had decreed humans primitive but potentially useful, granting Earth only provisional status in the galactic community. The same ones who had seized him during what was supposed to be a diplomatic mission, claiming that humans needed to prove their worth through the ancient trial of the arena. The lead counselor, Zel Tarath, rose from his seat, his slender form draped in ceremonial medals that caught the light of the system's twin suns. His amplified voice echoed throughout the arena. "We gather to witness the trial of Dominion. The human species claims readiness to join galactic society as equals, yet their physical and mental capabilities remain unproven." He gestured toward Marcus with a six-fingered hand. "Commander Marcus Reeves has volunteered as Earth's representative." Marcus suppressed a bitter laugh. Volunteered was quite the euphemism for taken at gunpoint and given an ultimatum. If he survives the 3 challenges, humanity will be granted full recognition, Zeltareth continued. Should he fail, Earth remains under probationary status for another full solar cycle. The crowd roared its approval. Nothing like the prospect of alien bloodsport to bring diverse species together, Marcus thought. Let the first challenge commence. A massive door ground open at the far end of the arena. The crowd fell suddenly silent. Even from 50 meters away, Marcus could feel the vibrations of heavy footsteps approaching. The Krothgar emerged from the shadows, a behemoth that seemed more mountain than creature, standing over 4 meters tall on powerful hind legs. Its body was covered in plates of natural armor that gleamed like polished steel. 6 eyes tracked Marcus from a head that resembled a prehistoric earth rhino, complete with a massive horn that could easily impale a human. Massive forearms ended in claws that could tear through the hull of a light spacecraft. Marcus had been briefed on the Krothgar during his hasty preparation. Native to a heavy gravity world, these creatures were living siege weapons, virtually unstoppable once they built momentum, with hide tough enough to withstand most conventional weapons. The creature bellowed, a sound so deep it resonated in Marcus's chest cavity. The crowd responded with excited chatter. They expected a simple outcome: charge, crush, victory for the Krothgar in seconds. Instead of running or cowering, Marcus stood his ground. His mind raced through what he knew about the creature's biology, behavior, and evolutionary history. He'd spent the 6 days of his captivity absorbing every scrap of xenobiological data the ship's computer would provide him. The Krothgar pawed the ground, preparing to charge. Classic territorial display. These creatures evolved as solitary apex predators, Marcus recalled. They weren't used to prey that didn't flee. Against every instinct screaming for self-preservation, Marcus began walking straight toward the beast. The crowd gasped collectively. Even the counselors leaned forward in their seats. The Krothgar hesitated, its 6 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of confusion in its species. This wasn't how prey behaved. It lowered its head and bellowed again, a final warning. Marcus maintained his pace, making direct eye contact with the creature's central eyes. He raised his arms slowly to his sides, making himself appear larger while keeping his movements smooth and deliberate. The beast snorted, tossing its massive head. It took a step backward, then caught itself. "They told me you were intelligent," Marcus said, his voice carrying in the sudden silence. Not just strong, but smart enough to recognize a trap. The Krothgar couldn't understand his words, but the tone registered calm, assertive, unafraid. All wrong for prey. 20 meters separated them now. The crowd was utterly silent, transfixed. The Krothgar lowered its head and charged. Marcus held position until the last possible second. The creature's momentum built with frightening speed, its massive feet gouging the arena floor. At precisely the calculated moment, Marcus pivoted sharply to the side, using a controlled roll to clear the beast's path. The Krothgar, unable to adjust its course quickly, thundered past him. Its own mass and momentum became its greatest weakness. Marcus had positioned himself near one of the arena's structural pillars, and the creature, unable to stop, collided with it at full force. The impact was thunderous. The pillar cracked but held. The Krothgar stumbled back, momentarily stunned. Marcus didn't press an attack. Instead, he circled to maintain eye contact, keeping his movements measured and predictable. "You're not built for extended exertion," he said, once again using his voice to establish presence. "High gravity world. Short bursts of speed, then rest. I can do this all day." The Krothgar shook its massive head, reorienting itself. But now there was something different in its stance. A wariness. It charged again, but with less commitment, pulling up short when Marcus sidestepped. 3 more times this pattern repeated. Each time the Krothgar's charges became less committed, its recovery time longer. It wasn't injured, but it was confused. This wasn't a battle it understood how to fight. After the 5th aborted charge, the Krothgar stopped. It stood heaving, assessing the human who refused to behave like prey. Marcus, breathing steadily, took a calculated risk. He stepped forward, hand extended, palm down. A visible tremor ran through the audience. No one approached a Krothgar voluntarily. Yet Marcus continued his slow advance until he stood just beyond striking distance. "We're not enemies," he said quietly. "Neither of us chose to be here." The Krothgar snorted, pawing the ground once more, but the gesture seemed perfunctory, a display without conviction. It studied Marcus, its multiple eyes blinking in complex patterns as it processed this anomaly. Then slowly, the massive creature lowered its head. Not in submission, but in recognition. It took 3 steps backward, then turned deliberately, away from Marcus, showing its flank, a vulnerable position that in its species signaled non-aggression. The arena erupted in stunned commotion. Zeltareth stood, mandibles clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "Unexpected," his voice boomed, "but one trial means nothing. Release the Shadow Weaver." A different gate opened, this one smaller and set higher in the arena wall. No sound emerged, just a darkness that seemed to pour like liquid shadow into the arena. The Shadow Weaver materialized gradually, a creature of living darkness that rippled and flowed across the arena floor. It had no fixed shape, instead shifting between various horrific forms, each more unsettling than the last. Where the Krothgar represented brute physical power, the Shadow Weaver was something altogether more insidious. "Psychic predator," Marcus whispered to himself, recognizing the species from his briefings. "Feeds on fear." The Shadow Weaver circled him, never committing to a solid form. Tendrils of darkness reached toward him, testing, probing. Marcus felt the first gentle touch against his mind, an alien presence seeking entry, looking for fears to exploit and amplify. This was a different kind of battle, one that couldn't be won with evasion or displays of confidence. The Shadow Weaver attacked the mind directly, manufacturing terror until its victims were paralyzed, then consuming their psychic energy while they were incapacitated. Marcus closed his eyes, centering himself. During his years of military service, he had undergone extensive psychological conditioning, including resistance to various forms of mental manipulation. But this was different. Not technology attempting to break into his mind, but a predator evolved specifically for this purpose. The first images began flooding his consciousness. Distortions of memories, loved ones in danger, his worst failures amplified. The Shadow Weaver was accessing his greatest fears, bringing them to the surface to overwhelm him. Instead of fighting the intrusion directly, Marcus employed a technique he'd learned from an old combat instructor. He didn't resist the fear. He acknowledged it, accepted it, then let it flow through him without taking root. "Yes, I'm afraid," he whispered. "But fear doesn't control me." The Shadow Weaver paused in its circling, seemingly confused. It probed deeper, sending more terrifying visions into Marcus's mind. The deaths of his team members during the Proxima crisis, Earth burning under alien weapons, his own body being torn apart. Marcus accepted each image, treating them as what they were, constructs, not reality. He opened his eyes, looking directly at the shifting mass of darkness. "I know what you are," he said, his voice firm and clear. "You evolved to hunt beings who run from their fears. But humans, we've learned to face them." He took a step toward the creature, then another. The Shadow Weaver recoiled slightly, unused to prey that approached rather than fled. "We turn our fears into fuel, into determination." Another step. "We've faced extinction multiple times in our history. Plagues, world wars, climate collapse, asteroid impacts, and every time we adapted, we survived." The Shadow Weaver's form rippled violently, its tendrils withdrawing from Marcus's mind. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. "You can't defeat me with fear," Marcus said, continuing his slow approach. "Because I've already faced my worst fears and survived them." The Shadow Weaver backed away, its form condensing as it retreated. Marcus continued his advance, his steps measured and deliberate. The crowd watched in stunned silence as prey became predator. When Marcus was just 3 meters away, the Shadow Weaver did something unprecedented. It flattened itself against the arena floor, spreading thin like a dark puddle, a position of submission in its species. For the second time, the arena erupted in chaos. Spectators jumped to their feet, gesturing wildly. The counselors huddled together, their private conversation clearly heated. Zeltarath finally stepped forward, his expression unreadable to human eyes. "This is irregular. 2 trials, 2 submissions without violence." Marcus looked up at the counselor's box. "Perhaps your understanding of strength is incomplete." The statement, broadcast throughout the arena, caused another wave of reactions from the crowd. Some species chittered in amusement, others rumbled in disapproval. Zeltarath's eyes narrowed. "You have not yet faced the final challenge, human. And for this there will be no clever solutions." He raised all 4 arms in a ceremonial gesture. "Prepare yourself, Commander Reeves. The Nexus beast awaits." A sense of dread settled over the arena as the largest gate began to open. Even the other alien species seemed apprehensive, many shrinking back in their seats or turning away entirely. Marcus squared his shoulders, breathing deeply to center himself once more. Whatever came through that gate, he would face it as he had the others, with intelligence, adaptation, and the uniquely human ability to find strength in vulnerability. The gate completed its ponderous opening sequence, revealing only darkness beyond. Then slowly, deliberately, something began to emerge that would challenge not just Marcus's survival skills, but his very understanding of life itself. The revelation. The darkness beyond the gate pulsed like a living thing. The crowd's murmuring fell to absolute silence, a rarity in any gathering of sentient beings. Even the Krothgar and Shadow Weaver retreated to the far edges of the arena, instinctively giving wide berth to what was emerging. The Nexus beast entered not with a roar or a charge, but with an almost contemplative slowness. It unfolded into the arena like a terrible flower blooming, its true form difficult for human eyes to comprehend. At first glance, it appeared as a massive quadruped with iridescent scales that shifted colors with each movement. But as it fully emerged, Marcus saw that it was something far more complex. Multiple limbs, not 4 but at least 8, moved with eerie coordination. Its head, if it could be called that, housed no recognizable facial features but rather a complex arrangement of sensory organs that pulsed with bioluminescence. When it finally stood fully revealed in the arena light, it towered nearly 7 meters tall, its body radiating an energy Marcus could feel on his skin like static electricity. The Nexus Beast, Zeltarath announced, though the introduction was hardly necessary. The oldest living predator in known space from the dawn of our galactic civilization. It has never been defeated. It cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be tricked. Marcus studied the creature, searching for any pattern or biological weakness he could exploit. Unlike the previous challengers, the Nexus Beast offered no obvious evolutionary traits to understand. It seemed almost engineered rather than evolved, its biology defying conventional classification. The final trial is simple, Zeltarath continued. Survival. If you live for 10 minutes in the presence of the Nexus Beast, humanity will be granted full recognition. The crowd's tension was palpable. 10 minutes seemed simultaneously trivial and impossible. The Nexus Beast remained motionless, studying Marcus with what he could only assume were sensory organs. Then it began to move, not toward him but in a wide circle, as if establishing the boundaries of their shared space. Its movement was fluid, almost beautiful in its lethal precision. Marcus remained still, conserving energy while tracking the creature's path. Standard evasion tactics would be useless against something this size and speed. The previous challenges had taught him that unconventional thinking was his only advantage. "You're different from the others," he said aloud, not expecting the creature to understand his words but using his voice to establish presence. The Nexus Beast paused momentarily, then changed direction, now circling closer. Marcus felt a strange pressure in his mind, not the invasive probe of the Shadow Weaver but something more subtle. The creature wasn't attacking his thoughts. It was observing them. "You're telepathic," Marcus realized aloud. "Not just sensing, fear like the Shadow Weaver. You're fully sentient." The pressure in his mind increased slightly, neither painful nor pleasant, simply present. The Nexus Beast completed another circle, now close enough that Marcus could see the intricate patterns flowing across its skin like living circuitry. "You're not here to kill me," Marcus continued, the revelation dawning on him. "You're here to evaluate me. This isn't a battle, it's a conversation." The crowd stirred restlessly, confused by the lack of action. They had expected violence, blood, the thrill of life or death struggle. Instead, they were witnessing a man talking to a monster that showed no aggression. Marcus took a calculated risk. He sat down cross-legged on the arena floor, making himself completely vulnerable. The crowd gasped collectively, expecting immediate death. The counselors leaned forward in their observation box. "I understand now," Marcus said, looking directly at what he believed were the creature's sensory clusters. "This isn't about dominance or submission. It's about comprehension." The Nexus Beast stopped circling. It lowered its massive form until it was level with the seated human, bringing its sensory organs within meters of Marcus. The pressure in his mind shifted, becoming more focused, more intentional. And then, unmistakably, words formed in Marcus's consciousness. Not human language, but concepts, impressions that his mind translated into understanding. "You see clearly where others remain blind." Marcus maintained his composure despite his shock. "You can communicate directly. All life communicates. Few listen. And that's the real test, isn't it? Not fighting. Listening." The Nexus Beast's colors shifted in what might have been the equivalent of acknowledgement. "Violence is the refuge of those who cannot comprehend. The Council uses me to determine which species are ready. Ready for what? For the truth of our galaxy. That cooperation, not dominance, is the path to survival." Understanding washed over Marcus. The arena wasn't merely entertainment or even a political tool. It was a sophisticated filter, a way of identifying species evolved enough to move beyond violence as their primary interaction with the unknown. The revelation was both beautiful and infuriating. Humanity had been manipulated, but for a purpose that transcended mere politics. "How many others have passed this test?" Marcus asked. "Few. Most attack. Most die. Some flee. Some survive through chance. But understanding, that is rare. And if I had attacked you, you would have failed." regardless of the outcome, as many have before you. Marcus looked up at the council box, seeing the Vexitari leaders with new understanding. They know. This is how they determine which species are ready for full galactic integration. They were tested as you are tested, as all must be tested. The galaxy cannot sustain the expansion of species that resort to violence as their first response to the unknown. The Nexus beast raised itself to its full height once more, colors cascading across its body in complex patterns. Your kind has potential. You face the unknown with curiosity before fear. You seek understanding before dominance. The creature turned toward the council box, broadcasting its thoughts not just to Marcus now, but to the entire arena through some mechanism Marcus couldn't comprehend. The crowd fell into a hushed silence as the collective consciousness of the Nexus beast touched each mind present. This one has passed the true test. Humanity has demonstrated the capacity for higher understanding. They are ready. Zeltareth stood, all four arms extended in a formal gesture of acceptance. The Nexus beast has rendered judgment. For only the 7th time in our recorded history, a species has passed the trial of comprehension rather than merely the trial of dominion. The arena erupted in a cacophony of sounds, cheers, clicks, whistles, and rumbles from dozens of different species. Marcus rose to his feet, still processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. The Nexus beast turned back to Marcus, its presence in his mind gentle now. You have opened a new path for your species. Use this opportunity wisely. I still don't understand why the deception was necessary, Marcus said. Why not simply tell us what you were looking for? Would you have believed? Would your leaders have accepted that the measure of a species is not its military might or technological advancement, but its capacity for understanding? Marcus considered this and had to acknowledge the truth in it. Human history was littered with examples of power being respected above wisdom. Return to your world, Marcus Reeves. Tell them what you have learned here. Some will listen. Some will not. But the seeds of change have been planted. With that, the Nexus beast turned and began moving back toward the gate from which it had emerged. The crowd watched in reverent silence as the ancient creature departed, its purpose fulfilled. Zeltareth descended from the council box, approaching Marcus on the arena floor, an unprecedented honor. Up close, the alien's features were less intimidating, the compound eyes reflecting curiosity rather than hostility. For centuries, we have used the arena to separate those species ready for true galactic citizenship from those who must still evolve, Zeltareth said. Most never discover the true purpose of the tests. They celebrate survival through violence and return to their worlds unchanged. But that's not what you're looking for, Marcus replied. You're looking for species that can move beyond violence as their primary response. Precisely. The galaxy is vast, Commander Reeves, filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. Only those civilizations that can approach the unknown with understanding rather than fear have any hope of long-term survival. Marcus looked around at the arena, seeing it now as a classroom rather than a battlefield. And the spectators? The bloodsport aspect? Zeltareth's mandibles clicked in what might have been the equivalent of a rueful smile. Even advanced civilizations retain primitive desires. The spectacle serves its purpose, drawing attention to the deeper lessons being taught. Those with eyes to see will understand. And humanity, what happens now? Your species will be granted full recognition in the Galactic Council. Your representatives will have equal voice in matters that affect all sentient beings. Your worlds will receive the protections and privileges that come with full citizenship. Zeltareth made a formal gesture with his upper limbs. And you, Commander Reeves, will return to Earth as our official ambassador, bearing the knowledge that few of your kind possess. Marcus absorbed this, understanding the responsibility being placed upon him. Some on Earth will resist these ideas. They'll see strength only in terms of military power and technological superiority. Of course, every species struggles with this transition, but enough of you must understand for humanity to progress. Zeltareth gestured toward the departing spectators. Today you have shown the galaxy that humans have this capacity. Now you must show your own people. As Marcus was escorted from the arena, no longer a prisoner but an honored ambassador, he reflected on the profound shift in perspective he had experienced. He had entered the arena expecting to fight for humanity's recognition through displays of strength or cunning. He left understanding that the greatest power lay not in domination, but in comprehension. The beasts had lowered their heads, not in submission to superior force, but in recognition of a mind capable of seeing beyond the battlefield. And in that recognition lay the true path forward for humanity among the stars. 3 days later, as his ship approached Earth, Marcus prepared the words he would use to explain what he had learned. Some would understand immediately. Others might never grasp the lesson of the arena. But the seed had been planted and humanity had been given its chance to grow beyond its violent origins. The stars awaited, not as conquests, but as conversations, and humanity had finally been invited to join the dialogue.